Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator. Come back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Raven Irabor. How are you doing? Welcome.
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Raven. I am from the Bronx. I currently live in LA, and I am a Pan African image maker and art curator.
Cool. So, being from the Bronx, how was it growing up?
I love New York City so much. I feel like it's impacted me in so many ways. Um, just in New York, you get the full gamut of like the African diaspora. So like when people say they're like Afro Latino or they're Black from the Caribbean, they're Black from like I just grew up around so many different types of Black people and just people from all over. Like New York has a large immigrant culture. Most people I know are first gen, if not immigrants, at the most second gen. Um, and when I was growing up, there was like the Tumblr scene in New York. So I would always like travel to Soho and Manhattan to hang out with like the creative like Tumblr art kids. And that was its own like bustling environment and era in New York. Specifically within like the Black and Latin community in New York City. So a lot of people that you see like Ronel Madrano, Justine Skye, like all these people were like New York City Tumblr kids that's now like made it in all these different eras because or areas, even ASAP Mob, all of them. Um, so yeah, that period in New York City just like impacted a lot of who I am and like what I do today. So I owe
Yeah,
the
that
Bronx, New York a lot.
yeah, that must be cool to just like have those spaces and then see people kind of sprout. I remember, even in the 2010s, I guess, or the early 2000s, like the Easter Ray, the Black and Sexy TV and all that stuff, and then to see these people on TV, like in big
Yeah.
productions, is really cool. The growth and the journey and stuff.
Yeah, I love seeing that when you follow someone like super early in their career and it's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys are absolutely incredible things. It's inspiring. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then with me being from Detroit, slash Southeast Michigan, and we got black, white, Arabic, Mexican. And then I went to school in upstate New York at Rochester Institute of Technology, and it was like a lot of people from New York City, and it's like everybody got a country, huh? Everybody got a flag.
Yeah, yeah. That's New York for
Yeah.
you.
So it was cool to expand, like, the kinds of people I met and stuff like that. A lot of people from the DMV too, so like a lot of African people and stuff. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
cool. Hmm.
Yeah, I've never been to Detroit, but I really actually want to go. And like I heard there's a really cool black art scene out there. So I want to at some
Yeah.
point make sure I visit Detroit.
Yeah, I haven't lived in Michigan since high school, like permanently, but I do try to stay tapped in and like try to find like, well, okay, what YouTube channel or what Instagram can I follow to like keep up with the art scene or even what's happening back home. So,
Yeah.
um, what are some of your best childhood memories?
Well, two things. One, like when I was younger, my parents, especially my dad, used to throw like parties or like social gatherings at my house. So I grew up like just like my uncles and people just coming over and like chilling and like listening to music and people vibing and having a good time. Um, so that and family vacations. My family like for the most part tried to travel like every year. So that also has a big impact on me, like seeing cultures traveling because like I was traveling a lot with when I was younger with my family. So yeah, those two.
Mm-hmm. Um, what is your cultural makeup? And that's not to only say what's your ethnicity, but also what is the culture of where you grew up and the uniqueness of where you're from.
That's a good question. It's like a very like interesting way to put that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so cultural makeup from like an ethnicity perspective. My mom is from Trinidad and my dad's from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that in itself, that household, that cultural makeup of that household in particular, um, created a space for me and my brother to understand what it's like to be black on both sides and like understand what it means to be Caribbean and understand what it means to be African and also being born in America. Like I'm the first American born on both sides of my family, like both immediate sides. Um, So yeah, that's like ethnicity and like the culture of my household. New York City is a very like we kind of talked about it like very multicultural, um, very hustle bustle. Everybody's also like very much like in some way, shape, or form into fashion. Like you have all these people like showing up, giving their best looks. So that inspired me a lot. I went to Catholic school most of my life until college. So most of my like primary education was in Catholic school, and that is its own culture in itself too. Like I didn't start wearing like actual clothes until college because I'd be wearing uniform every day. And we
Mm-hmm.
had dress up days, and those were the days that you had to really actually get fly. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna show
Yeah.
out. Dress down days. Um, so yeah, the Catholic school culture is in itself different. And I think that also is why I probably like really desired to go to Soho and like just like use Tumblr because it was a way to express myself that I didn't get a chance to in Catholic school in some ways, you know. Um, and yeah, I guess those are all my cultures I can think of that have enveloped me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is your favorite custom or tradition from your culture? What is the favorite one that your family did growing up?
On New Year's Eve, we always go to church on both sides of my family. In Trinidad, I've spent more like Christmas and New Year's in Trinidad. So just like the Christmas culture and the holiday culture in Trinidad is much different. Like you have to like clean the house, you have to like change the curtains, make sure the windows are closed. Then Old Year's night is what they call New Year's Eve. Is like you go to church, you come back, there's a certain dish my grandma makes. It's like a rice dish. I can't remember it off the top, but she makes that on Old Year's Eve or Old Year's Day rather, and yeah, just the vibe of Christmas and the holidays in the Caribbean is like they take it very, very seriously, way more than I do in like America. Like if we're at home, we're not doing that much.
Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I like going to Trinidad for Christmas.
So, what was your journey in like art, creativity during your childhood up into like becoming an adult?
Okay. When I was a kid, I actually danced. So I danced actually up until like when I completed college for the most part. Um, so dance was a big, like immediate form of expression, but also like being dedicated to something and performance. And yeah, I don't know. Dance was very formative because even in my directing approach, there's a lot of like movement. The way that I understand like practice is because of dance. Like, okay, like I don't feel like I'm not doing something well enough if I'm not practicing. So yeah, the way that I think and go about things, I think like still aligns with the dance format and structure of like performance and practice and all those things, technique, like all of that. So that I was into first immediately. Um, then I used to do this like there was this time in middle school. I feel like everybody was. I don't know if it's now like calligraphy. There is a formal actual name for it, but it was like writing people's names and like all these like fancy designs
Mm-hmm.
uh, or typography. I don't know, but there is like a form
Yeah.
now. But yeah, I did that in like middle school without realizing it was a thing. Like that was just like, okay, I'm gonna write your
Yeah.
name. And then in high school, I was in this communications class, and I'm still very close with my communications teacher today, Miss Riolo. I was in the newspaper, so I thought I was gonna go into like journalism. She was the person that like pushed me to communications, and high school also the era of Tumblr, so I was really like fashion, um, film also was like, and photography, big influences. So I started like I had like a t-shirt line in high school, and did photo shoots in high school, and then in college, I was on a dance team like more. I was doing dance my entire life, but I never like was consistently performing until I was in college on this dance team. We had practice like almost every day. Like I'm used to going to practice maybe once a week, twice a week at most. But
Mm-hmm.
for the dance team in college, we had practice like so often. So um, looking at dance in that way, which was like a nice, um, I guess, understanding of structure and formatting and like putting on a show, like the active, like we having the storyline and these characters and the lighting and the costume. Like we designed a lot of our costumes. We like raise money for our shows. So um, I think that approach is like similar with filmmaking, like funding your show. What's the lighting gonna look like? What's the costume like? Making it a performance, which is a lot of the approach in like my filmmaking work today. Um, and then I was doing music journalism for a while. I had me and my
Mm-hmm.
best friend had a company called Underground Founders, and we interviewed emerging hip hop artists in New York City. Then I kind of pivoted more into fashion. Um, so I did a concentration in fashion and beauty communications in college, and then I was like, I want to do fashion films. So I started after college focusing on that a lot more, reaching out to different like editorials, designers, whatever, to do fashion, commercial fashion films and things like that. And for the most part, all of that kind of like blends into the different territories that I touch today. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was also right after college part of this group called The Rue, and we threw like art exhibitions and different like art showcases in New York City, specifically for Black artists. Um, so that also got me into curating in a way that I didn't like at the time know what curating was. But it's similar to producing in a lot of ways, which is what I was and I am like professionally doing.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, that's my artistic and creative path.
So were your parents supportive of your artistic interests?
Yeah, for the most part. Like I went to museums a lot with my parents, like especially when we traveled, we did go to museums. And then my mom worked when most of like my childhood at Mount Sinai Hospital, which is like on the upper east side in New York, like 96th Street, 100. Uh, but there was like the Guggenheim Museum, I think. There's like a couple of museums in that area that I used to go with my mom too. Sometimes a lot of like Jewish museums. Um, so we were exposed to the arts, and they were the ones that put me in dance. And I also did piano. I did piano for a couple of years, and I have my keyboard here, but I've like never used it. I brought it with me. So they understand the value of like expression and support my brother and I. I think I was like a more like outwardly expressive kid than my brother. And now that they understand a bit more what I do, they're super, super supportive. It wasn't like they wasn't like ever with it, but it was like, when you move to LA, your parents are like, don't be struggling out there. Like they just worry. You work in
Right.
the media does not pay you well. Like you should be paying more, getting more money than that. I'm like, I know. I gotta like really start from the bottom in this industry. So,
Right.
but I feel like they're relaxed now. They can
Yeah.
breathe a
Gotta pay my
little.
dues.
Exactly.
So, what are some, projects that you've worked on in your career?
So I guess as a producer, I've been working on like the production tracks since I graduated college, starting off as a production intern, and now I'm a producer. And so a lot of the work that I've done is in the digital space in my 9 to 5. So I've produced podcasts, I've produced digital series, motion, like animation pieces, graphic design work. So like ads, banner ads, campaign ads, out of home ads. But the bulk of my work has been like video, photo, and podcast in the digital space for my 9 to 5. Um, and but the projects that I've worked on that are like my favorite are like my personal projects or projects that like align with like my values, like with a client that I've worked with. So I worked with the folklore for a couple of years. Um, and that's where I really got into doing a lot of like fashion video work, fashion content. I did a lot of interviews with artists who I admire and I love their work. And that was another, I think, environment that allowed me to understand and learn more about the art space because we were interviewing like painters, people who put on art shows on the continent, dancers, photographers, and really talk about like the artistry and the art and there's the way that they approach their work within their space through a lens of fashion as well. So it was a nice like combination of things that I really liked, and then understanding like digital content from my 9 to 5, like coming up with strategies on like the types of series and that we should do based on our audience and whatever like our marketing objectives and stuff were. So that part of it was nice because I'm used to that work, but like the the core of just being able to merge like fashion, art, and video with the folklore was a nice experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then right now, my favorite project is this film that I'm working on, which I'm really excited because it's the first film that I've done for myself in a long time. I've
Mm-hmm.
done like some short films, like a lot, like visual pieces, I would say, versus like in a film that had like an actual plot. I'm like more of a conceptual artist, so most of my films aren't like dialogue heavy. They're mainly voiceover and they're performance pieces as well. So
Mm-hmm.
this is my first time that's like merging dialogue and plot with being conceptual and it's still voiceover because I don't really like dialogue in myself. But yeah, it's my like I'm really like happy about the process and like how I put it together and it truly being like uh, a domino effect of like every single thing that I've like touched on in the past ever. So
What would you say is your biggest breakthrough in your career, or have you had multiple?
for the folklore, we did an editorial collaboration with Farfetch called Africa Is Now, where we highlighted emerging designers from Nigeria and a couple designers from other places up on the continent, but primarily Nigerian designers. The entire team on the ground was Nigerian, and we worked with an incredible photographer. His name is Stephen Tile for the shoot. Um, and it was just a beautiful moment because we got a lot of press. The team worked really hard, and Farfetch really helped us to have a large rollout. So we got press with like Business of Fashion, Vogue, Refinery 29, um, just a lot of like places who like really enjoyed the visuals, appreciated the collaboration. So it really amplified the work that we were doing at the folklore. And I was just happy to be a part of it, happy to develop this concept like of Africa Is Now and the look and feel and do the creative behind it and produce it. Um, and working with all these incredible talent on the ground, like the entire team was did an incredible job. And it was right after the riots happened in Nigeria where they had like the Lekki massacre. We were supposed to
Mm-hmm.
shoot that week and the massacre happened, so we had to push it like 2 weeks. So just like for them to go through that and still like produce such an incredible piece of work, and to get that press for it was a very affirming moment because I didn't think I haven't had like that large of a press like reach before, so that was really
Yeah.
important to me, and I appreciated that, so that was great. Another moment would be my job. It just has a sense of accomplishment. Like, okay, I'm finally at a place in my life that like I feel settled,
Yeah.
especially coming out LA. So in general, I'm just happy to be in a space where I feel a lot more settled. I'm in an apartment that I love. I'm like, things just feel like I'm grateful for a lot. And that's a lot because of like the job. So I appreciate being settled.
So as a creative director, like, what is your job, and a producer?
Okay, yeah. So I the word creative director, I feel like depending on the industry can translate to so many things, like in like design. If you're a creative director, you've probably had a design background or whatever. But I do creative directing for photography and video. So a lot of my work as a creative director is really to amplify or increase the visual value of the video or the photography. So developing the concepts, pitching concepts to the client, or if I'm working in terms of like video, I may be working closely with a director. So they may have a concept and I like kind of like, okay, this is what the lighting should be and this is how we should develop it and this is what the makeup should look like, and developing just like the visuals for different departments to then like hand off um, to like the art department or hair and makeup or costume or whatever. And then overseeing the creative across all those different teams. And then on set, a lot of just like ensuring that, what the creative that we discussed is being executed upon or developing new ideas that need to happen on the spot. And then if it's video, supporting the director and well, how they're directing things on set. Um, but yeah, generally it's just like overseeing the visual, the concepts. Sometimes it involves pitching depending on like the type of project it is, and then overseeing post production from a creative perspective. So just giving feedback whenever needed, and yeah, so that's creative direction, and that's a lot of the work that I do on the side for clients. And then in terms of producing, uh, the role of the producer is also one that's like very ambiguous because I feel like people don't know what a producer ever does. Um,
Yeah.
on the basic level, I'm seeing a project from like conception to like execution and like bringing it along. I've produced in like, again, the graphic space and like motion graphics and video, photo, podcasting. So that kind of like is a through line amongst all those mediums. But especially with video and photo, which is where like my passion lies, a lot of the producing is like working with the creative, whether it is like the director or the photographer, creative director, getting their concepts, putting together like a budget, a production plan, an approach on how we're executing it, booking the crews, or if we need to bring on a production company, if we need to bring on like a design house, like bringing those people on, getting the contract signed, or sending out contracts to be signed, managing the budget throughout the process, like making sure everybody has what they need, the folders, whatever else have you. If it's a video shoot on set, making sure things are being run smoothly on time, that if we are sticking to the production schedule, approving anything that needs to be approved so that the creative, like the director can do their thing or the photographer can do their thing. Um, and then like wrapping the project. So all that post-production work is done, making sure people are getting paid. Um, yeah, and then with video and photo that I like the most about producing is that in that space, I think that's one of those gatekeeper roles because you do have the ability to bring people in. So I
Mhm.
like love making sure that I'm like putting Black people onto as many opportunities as possible. Like I have a roster. I have someone helping me right now to like update my roster, but I
Yeah.
have a whole document of like Black creatives, Black photographers, art directors, designers, whatever, so that if an opportunity pops up, because people ask me all the time, do you know a graphic designer? Do you know a photographer? Do you know a stylist? Someone today asked me if I know someone who builds sets. Like, so I
Yeah.
just like share that like I'm tapped in as a producer and even as a creative director, because these are people I want to collaborate with creatively.
Mhm.
But really, as a producer, like you do have that ability to bring people onto to projects, which I love too.
Cool. I feel like you kind of just said it, but what can you say about why do you love what you do?
Yeah, I think so I love, even pulling back like outside of those specific titles of producer and creative director and filmmaker, whatever, like me saying that I'm a Pan African image maker and art curator encompasses like just my approach to my work and the reason why I do a lot of the things, which is to amplify and support artists and creatives of the diaspora. So using like whether it's the different projects that I'm on, whether I'm the creator or the producer or an art creator or whatever I am on that project, like a lot of my intentionality is to amplify the diaspora in any way, shape, or form. So, and a lot of it is through the form of visuals. And even more specifically, a lot of the work that I do is like fashion image making. A lot of, especially my creative work, and my personal practice is fashion image making, because fashion also, I think, across the diaspora, um, represents like how we want to show up in this world. Like, it's our own self-expression, but we also have a lot of customs that's associated with the way that we show up, like Black American culture, like how people go to church on Sundays, like that being a thing, and how people, with the hip-hop era, how people dress and define themselves through that. Like in the Caribbean, we have Carnival, and like how people dress up and play mas for Carnival. Like there's just so, or in New Orleans, Mardi Gras. There's so many ways throughout the diaspora that we show up through costume and fashion that I am like fascinated by, that I try to incorporate into a lot of my work. So that's, some of my favorite things, just amplifying the diaspora through image making, specifically fashion image making, supporting artists and creatives of the diaspora, and then through art creating similarly, like putting on shows or giving these artists and creatives opportunities and like exposure in any way that I can. So yeah.
Mhm. So I've been campaigning among my different circles for people to create more short form content. What do you feel is the power of expressing yourself in forms that are less than 5 minutes?
Our attention spans are much shorter. So if you're doing digital content off rip, it is to capture people's attention, the way that we consume media nowadays, the shorter and the more comprehensive, and then bonus if it's entertaining and funny, the better. So
Yeah.
yeah, just like if you're thinking about content creation and like content strategy, I think like it is of value to have shorter pieces of content. However, I will say for YouTube will be the only platform that I would say the longer is actually better because people go to YouTube to sit down and watch something. Like I watch most of my podcasts on YouTube. I don't even listen to it. I like to watch the interview and it could be
Yeah.
2 hours. I'm watching this Drink Champs video or I'm watching Curation
Yeah.
Please and Angie Martinez, like it's long
Mm-hmm.
pieces of content or vlogs or whatever. So, um, yeah, YouTube is where I would say yes, have longer, even though I know they're doing YouTube shorts. But I
Yeah.
think outside of YouTube, if you're creating digital content and you want to talk to your audience in that way, shorter pieces is probably the preferred route.
What are you trying to accomplish through your short form content, like your YouTube videos and whatnot?
I primarily use my YouTube channel just for portfolio purposes. So most of my
Mm-hmm.
personal work is short form. I would say the reasons for that being I do short form pieces of content is usually more affordable to make. So you can
Mm-hmm.
get things out quicker, especially if you are like a filmmaker or a creator that practices in the medium of video. Like um, it is more affordable to do shorter pieces of content to get it out there. They can be like proof of concepts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Usually some use like short films to then like help get funding for like a larger film or whatever. But personally for me, I do just like shorter, like short films. I think I don't maybe one day I'll make a feature length film, but even the film that I'm
Uh-huh.
working on now is my longest piece and it's like 9 to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so maybe max 20, but I can't do longer than that. um,
Yeah.
So yeah, so on my YouTube channel, you'll find that per se. But like, if I was like actively trying to do content, which at some point I would like to like produce content to like just market my brand a bit more, I would definitely do like the shorter, you know, reels types of content. I'd be also more strategic about like my YouTube channel because again, right now it's like a dump from
Yeah.
my portfolio. But yeah.
What opportunities have you gotten from producing your personal work?
I think all of the opportunities that I've ever had has been because I decided to do work outside of my 9 to 5 and build my personal portfolio. So even the jobs that I have from like my actual 9 to 5 jobs, people have seen my portfolio. And that's allowed me to kind of like stand out because it's like this is the things that I'm passionate about and this is the things that I've been able to produce without a large conglomerate behind me per se, or working with smaller clients or whatever. Um, while also being able to produce work within these larger sectors. So taking like the knowledge I'm getting from these bigger companies and bringing it to smaller places that are focused on Black artists, Black creatives, and things like that. So yeah, my portfolio, like it has been very, very helpful in getting opportunities. And I always encourage like creatives, like if you don't have anything else, like you need a portfolio. But even if you can have to start off with like a Google Slides or a Canva thing before you can get to a website, fine. But um, having a portfolio to like market your work in some way, shape, or form, showcase your work, because that's the first thing that people are going to look for and ask for. So yeah.
How important is infusing fashion into your projects?
It's interesting because it's like I don't know if I would label it as important. I would just label it as something that's very natural to me. Like it's kind of ingrained in how I create and the things that I like doing. If even if I'm doing something for a client, I did I directed this episode of Meta We the Culture. They have like a black sub brand called We the Culture that supports Black artists and creators on the platform. And they have a series called Get Into where they interview a Black creator from the platform. And I was like, yeah, but we're still gonna make it fashion. Just naturally, like that's just like how I you know, and the talent, she's a cosplayer, so she's already into beauty and fashion. So it's just like, yeah, like let's really make this still conceptual and still like visually appealing. So yeah, it's not important, it's not like major, like, you know, but it's so ingrained in me that I can't not do it. And I do think, you know, fashion can say a lot of things about a piece, about that person. So it's another communication form for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like in school, namely like middle school and high school, anytime there's like a project, if I could draw or do something art related, I'd be like, I'm gonna do that. Because I don't like writing or nothing, but if I could draw a picture, I'll do that. And
You're good
then
at drawing? I wish I was good at drawing. I cannot draw. Oh my gosh.
and then something I did in college, like the first 2 years of college our like Black Student Union, which was called Black Awareness Coordinating Committee, we would have these events where we'd be like, let's have these discussions, let's invite, everybody, and the white people wouldn't come. So I'm like, okay, I want to know what they think about certain things. So junior and senior year of college, I did as many of my projects around race as I could because I want, like, they have to go to class, they have to participate. So like, I want to know what y'all think, and sometimes it was dumb, but like
That's so cool. That's like such an intentional like power move. I love that you did that.
Yeah, because I was like, well, yeah, I ain't coming to our stuff, so let
Yes,
me
I'm gonna talk to
bring it
you.
to you.
Yeah, right where you at. You're gonna have to talk about it.
Yeah, and then that helped me because in college I kind of had to learn how to converse and talk because I was like really quiet, and so I remember in my visual anthropology class we had to do an image. We had to talk about, like, pick an image and talk about it. So I picked like when LeBron James and Giselle was on Vogue, and it kind of mirrored the King Kong cover of the book.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And that gave me an opportunity, like, because this white guy in my class was like, maybe he was like a monkey in a positive way, and I'm just like, what? Like, and so it gave me an opportunity to like advocate for myself or advocate for my thought, and I felt like that was the first time I had done that. And my professor backed me up too, but it was just like, no. And I'm going to tell you why. So yeah.
Do you still do that kind of work today?
I'm in the animation industry. I got my degree in animation, so the project that I'm wrapping up on right now is a Black animated TV series, primetime. So I got to be like a cultural expert of sort, since most of our team was like Black, white, and Asian. So.
What? Okay. So you're the only Black person on a Black animation show?
Oh no, our showrunner is a Black woman. Our supervisor director is a Black person. But with like, when you reach out to people, they got to be available. So if they're not, a lot of Black people are working, so that's good.
Yeah.
So you got to get who you can get. And so I was able to, anytime there's like reference images that need to be found, I feel like we have this cultural understanding where if I need to look up this certain thing, I'm like, I know this is the image and this is not the image. And some people don't have that power because they don't know anything about race because they don't have to. But yeah, so.
That makes sense.
One of your goals last year was prioritizing rest and freely creating. How do you feel like you did, and what measures did you put in place to ensure that you didn't overwork, and were you able to create without parameters? Essentially, did you reach your goals?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, yes. In some ways last year I did prioritize rest. I was better with my like work-life balance because the year before that, my previous job, I did not have that. I didn't even have like the opportunity to have that because that job was just so intense. So
Mhm.
working at a place where I do have a way better work-life balance and able to set up boundaries of like I'm not available or whatever, or at least have the opportunity to communicate that.
Yeah.
Um, allowed me to get some more rest. I traveled a lot last year, which was nice. And in the end, I was actually exhausted from traveling. So this year, I'm not traveling as much.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed being able to travel a lot, um, and just having rest at the forefront of my mind. Yeah. Oh, that's
Mhm.
such a great question. I didn't. Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about the idea of like did I actually rest last year, but in comparison to the year before, which is the reason
Mhm.
why I to prioritize, I definitely rested a lot more, which is
Mhm.
nice. That progression. So yeah.
And the other thing you talked about was creating, from spirit and like freely without like parameters. So were you able to do that more last year?
I don't know. I feel like I'm more in that this year. I think
Mhm.
especially because like I'm working on my film and like I'm working on a couple of projects that's just like it just feels good.
Yeah.
It's not about like, working with a brand or it's just like, okay, I just want to collaborate with people. Like I'm in that phase right now. And a lot of people that I'm talking to are also in this phase of like, yeah, I just want to collaborate. I want to do test shoots. I want to do this. So I've been talking to a lot of people about like test shoots and just, fun project and collaborating. Um, so yeah, I feel like I'm more like invigorated about that now than last
Mhm.
year. But I did work on cool projects last year, a lot of like still intention. I mean, I feel like for the most part, I work on a lot of intentional projects that amplify Black people. But I did get a lot of cool opportunities. Like the We the Culture one was an opportunity last year that was like unexpected, and I was really really grateful for. It's like my first like project as a director, just solely
Mhm.
directing. But last year, I really wanted to begin like marketing myself as and less as a producer, so that I can like
Yeah.
pivot more into directing on this side. Um,
Mhm.
so getting that opportunity was really, really great.
So what have you learned throughout your career that you think will be beneficial advice to others?
As Black artists and Black creators and creatives and all the things, I think we are accustomed to this understanding of like, or this concept of being a starving artist and how I was saying in the beginning, like, having to convince your parents, like, I'm gonna be fine, like, just like that struggle you have to like start from the bottom to have a good salary, to feel comfortable, to have all those things, um, to be paid what you deserve. So I would say like, don't subscribe to that notion. Like that does not have to be the case. There's a way to push for the salary you deserve, the rate you deserve, all of those things. Setting yourself up for success to get that, whether that means like getting in, like you're just like your paperwork together in an account, just like making sure that like you are set up for success, that people are paying you well, knowing that like this is what you deserve to get. Because it's just depressing. It doesn't make people want to pursue a creative career. And there's so many
Mhm.
talented people out there. And like at the end of the day, like we live in a capitalist society and people need to survive. Like being
Yeah.
stressed out about money is not healthy. And we live in this like run, what is it, rat race. We live in
Yeah.
this rat race. People are like, it's not an easy society that we live in, specifically in America. It's very
Mhm.
draining. So the last thing that you want to have to worry about is like, what am I going to eat because you don't have any money because you wanted to pursue a career in art or fashion or design or any sort of creative medium. So, and creativity makes the world go round. So it's like, if there's anybody that deserves to get paid what they're owed, it's artists and creatives. So just fight for it. And there is a growing middle class of artists and creatives. I read an article about it.
Mhm.
With a quote from Joshua Kissy, this Ghanaian photographer from the Bronx. And he was just acknowledging like, because we are breaking barriers and we are opening doors and we have more Black people in certain positions, that are able to bring on other Black people, there is this growing middle class of like Black artists and creatives, which is nice to see. But even still, we're not being paid our worth and
Yeah.
things like that. So just know, just know that like that is something that to fight for. Like, don't accept people not paying you well, not paying you at all, just
You're right.
because you're, just, so yeah, that would be my biggest advice.
How has being black or any other ism, like, sexism or anything, impacted your career in any way?
I think being Black in corporate America for me, the most, I don't want to call it challenging, but
Mm-hmm.
it's bizarre. I think that's what I want to call it, bizarre. It's bizarre that I have had to navigate sh- showing up to places
Mm-hmm.
authentically myself.
Yeah.
Like because in any other space, it feels right. It feels natural.
Yeah.
This space, something about it feels like maybe you should wear your hair this way. Like only literally like at Meta recently, I started wearing my hair out in like an afro, and even still sometimes I don't. And I wear my natural hair, but there's something about even like, all right, I'm going to the afro level.
Yeah.
That's like, are they ready
The
for this?
final boss. Like.
Like y'all been getting braids, been getting locks, but the afro.
Mm-hmm.
um, so only in this job I've started doing that. I'm still like nervous, but like, this is the most comfortable I feel like I've been in white spaces. And I think, yes, part of it is due to like Meta feeling more inclusive, but a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
is me being like, yo, like I'm not about to, like, I don't have the energy to have to show up in a space that makes you comfortable when I'm not doing anything wrong. You
Right.
know, I remember one of my first jobs out of college. I was the only Black girl in our department, and I was like a cool young hip Black girl, whatever. So it would just be weird, like they try to, oh, like, do you know how to do this dance? You know how it's like, yes, but why are you asking me? Like,
Why is this relevant? Like.
I think it was like, I forgot what song came out that, but it was some like, I don't know, it wasn't Pop Smoke because I was already out here,
It'd
but
be
some
like
like
they think they can only communicate to you in black things. And it's like,
yeah,
I know other things too.
exactly. And then it was like a weird fetish and
Mm-hmm.
fetishism in that
Yeah.
way. That made me like, okay, like I can't like be in an environment where I'm like the only cool Black person here. Because yeah, act like you've never seen a cool Black person before when there's a lot of us out
Right.
here. So having to deal with that, I would say was the hardest part and continues to be the hardest part of being a Black person in
Yeah.
corporate America. And I would say secondly is like having to make sure that you're asking for the right salary. I think that and
Yeah.
being a woman combined has been hard. Like getting, I think, the confidence as a woman to like demand what you deserve, because I think it's hard for women to do that anyway,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of even harder for Black women. So getting more comfortable with like talking about rates and pushing back and negotiating, and
Yeah.
having people like different mentors and just other women or people in general who've instilled that in me, or like was like on the inside was like, yo, you should ask for this, just
Yeah.
giving me that. So yeah, I would say those two things are definitely the hardest of being a Black person and then a Black woman.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes I feel like you have to be like a warrior, like, but you don't want to be. You just want to be a human being. I know, like for me, like even advocating for myself, because not a lot of people advocate for themselves. So you're kind of the bad
Yeah.
person, even if you stick up for yourself. You seem combative, and I saw a TikTok video today of a woman, and she was talking about generally being a black woman, but she also is on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But like she was talking about, she was in a meeting, and she worked with a couple other women on a project, and she just they were congratulating them on the project, and she just mentioned like the stuff that she did, and
Mm-hmm.
then her boss and some other people kind of did a side meeting like, oh, you know that was too much, like you didn't have to do that, you made other people feel uncomfortable. And it's like, you're making, well, I've been consistently uncomfortable in this environment, so I quit. So, like, why do
Wait,
like,
now
I just was like, in a nice way, I just was saying, okay, I did this part of the project since y'all like are giving it to all the white women, but like, let me say what I did. And then they're
yeah.
like, oh, that's too much, like you made them feel uncomfortable. And she was talking about how the white woman didn't even stick up for her, because they know what you did. And so,
Yeah. Well, shout outs to her for being like, well, y'all been making me uncomfortable this entire time, so I'm not even impressed about y'all.
right.
Like, um, yeah, that's so weird. I don't know. When you were saying that, it brought a memory back. Um, Not totally related at all, but just thinking about like
Yeah.
horrible work
Yeah.
experiences, with white people or white
Mm-hmm.
men instance. But one of my first like main jobs outside of college, I was like an intern and I was like in charge of the prop closet. So I had to count the props, whatever, make sure everything was in code. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. We had like the shared long desk. I'm here, and I was working for like a brand that we did a lot of food content. So the
Mm-hmm.
props are like dishes, like
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful things like that. So trying to be like very careful about how I'm putting like this plate down because this guy, like, he wasn't directly across from me. He was like, diagonally across from me.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time I was writing and like maybe I was writing a little rough. Like I remember being a little annoyed that day, but
Mm-hmm.
he was coming at me because the table was shaking. Like the way he was talking to me was like very, very inappropriate. About
Right.
how the table was shaking and whatever, whatever. So I was like, all right, like I don't want this man to yell at me. So I have these like dishes, and I'm like, bro, like so slowly. I'm like, it's so embarrassing. Like, why are you talking to me crazy like that? Like, it, and I shouldn't have to do that. Like, I was so
Yeah.
uncomfortable, so nervous. So then, I was encouraged to tell my boss about it, who was a woman, and
Mm.
she told his boss, who was a woman. And apparently he's been like just doing that to different, not that exactly, but just like being very like rude,
Yeah.
and aggressive down to in the office. So I was grateful that like I had a female boss
Yeah.
who understood and talked to him about it. But I like when it happened, I was not going to tell them because I just felt like, all right, I'm gonna just deal with it. But I was happy that I was encouraged to speak up
Yeah.
about it. Hard, you're like new, you're young, you're the only Black girl, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to, you don't want to do too much. You like, but mind you, I'm like looking ridiculous, like shaking, trying to because I don't want this man to yell at me. And it's like, you're not my
Yeah.
dad. Why are you? So
Yeah.
just work environments, like it's like y'all be talking to people crazy and getting away with it.
Yeah. To go back to, you mentioned that wearing your afro. I know, like, at early in my career, I wore my afro. I had a big afro, and then I
Mhm.
went down to this at some point, and I remember we would communicate on Skype, and I still have the screenshot to this day where this woman, she was like, she was actually trying to help me. She was trying to get me a position at a local community college, and she was like, oh,
Mhm.
tell them that I sent you because you're like an unknown pissant kid with nappy hair up until now. And I was like, what, I didn't ask her about it, but I'm like, well, I just cut my hair, so did you think, like, I always had my afro perfectly coiffed, but to her it was still just like nappy or something like that.
Wait, why was that the description though?
I
Like that
don't
was
know. And she was kind of weird. So it was like, as a 20 something year old person, I have to figure out how to talk to this 40-year-old white woman about how what she said to me was inappropriate. Because if you said it to anybody else, they would have clapped you upside your head. Like, so I'm like, I'm 20 something years old, and I have to be like, okay, I can't go off, and I'm confused. Like, it was a lot, and
yeah,
so I'm
so
just
strange.
like, I have to, like, or let me have this meeting with her and tell her, like, you
How did that
can't say that to
conversation go?
people. I mean, I had it, like, I don't think I told my supervisor because it was so weird. I didn't like I don't think I would tell anybody about it because it was just like, why would you say this? And so I had the conversation with her, I feel like she understood. It was like a long time ago, but I just was like, you're trying to help me, but you're like, you're trying to be helpful, but you're also being mad racist like at the same time. And that's the crazy thing about it is like they can exist in both places at the same time. The duality, like.
No, for the dual. Oh, that is wild. Because it
Yeah.
really, that didn't need to, like, totally could have been eradicated from that sentence.
Right. Like, but yeah, I've had like just, I'm not that old, but I've had a very interesting career, unfortunately. I mean, it was in the South, so that kind of accelerates the
Okay.
interesting parts.
I well, yeah, the South speaks a lot for itself.
Yeah.
Um, so when I was at the folklore, um, we did a lot of shoots with models, and there was
Mm-hmm.
this one modeling agency we were booking just different kinds of models, Black models, whatever, of all races. But there's one model, I don't even remember if she could have been mixed. She couldn't. I don't think she was fully Black. So we asked like, okay, how do they have their hair so that we know, how we want it to be styled or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the agent, I did screenshot this. I have it on my laptop too, because I'm like, this is just wild. She just out of nowhere was like, yeah, she unfortunately would have to get it straightened. Poor girl. I'm like, it's not that, like, why are you making it seem like just because she got curly hair that she has the most difficult hair to
Right.
do? Poor girl. I'm like,
Like
and
she
again,
got
I think
gangrene or something. Like.
I was like, what? And because I guess she didn't know that I was Black, so she thought I was gonna be like, oh yeah, I was just like, okay, next,
Right.
because I'm not even gonna acknowledge that. We just want to book the model. I didn't even
Right.
ask you about
Yeah. They be doing too
very
much.
random, strange.
Um, so at this point in your career, what have you decided is your purpose in regard to blackness and black professionals in entertainment?
I think the purpose that I serve um, in this path of unity amongst the diaspora is mentorship. I love talking to anyone that wants to learn and wants my advice. Like, I love mentoring. Mentoring has helped me a lot in my career. Like, I've been grateful for the fact that a lot of people who I've reached out to, like, been down to answer my questions, support me. So I love doing that, because without that, I wouldn't be remotely where I am today without the community around me. So I love to give back in that way. Um, and then when I was saying with producing, like, being a person that can give Black creatives and artists opportunities, jobs. In the next couple of years, I want to open a studio that serves as a multifunctional community space in New York, specifically targeting artists and creatives of the diaspora. So, whether you're in like Ghana, Nigeria, London, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, you come to New York, like, that this is a place that, has a bunch of like art references. You can book for a shoot, doing art galleries and exhibitions and curating those shows, and, hopefully having larger clients that I can then, like, hire Black creatives to do the job. So if it's like with Meta, like, okay, Meta's doing a campaign, here's these Black creatives that can be part of this campaign, that can shoot it, that can edit it, that can be on whatever. Um, that's a big goal for me that I want to do in the next couple of years. So yeah, just being a person to give Black people opportunities, give Black people and artists and creatives specifically. I think I like target that sector. That's like my, I don't know, what's that word? My ministry. That's what in
Yeah.
church.
I
That's
use
my
that a
ministry.
lot. I use that a lot. Because there's a lot
But
of
yeah,
things that ain't my ministry.
right. Let those people do that, because that's their
Right.
ministry. But yes, supporting these artists and creators of the diaspora, and again through this line of like Pan-Africanism, uniting the diaspora, having these conversations within ourselves of like, this is how our food shows up across the diaspora. Like, these people eat this in this country, they eat this.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same because of X, Y,
Yeah.
Z. We're here because of this. We dress like this, like showing those we dance this way. and using art as a way to showcase our cultures and our customs and how we show up. So I guess it's threefold:
Yeah.
mentorship, giving people opportunities, and showcasing our culture and our customs and our art.
Yeah. There's a woman on TikTok who started Black History Month, like stop the diaspora wars, and then she's at like a part one and part two, and like jambalaya the same as jollof, like, like so she's
You
like,
gotta send me that. I want to do that.
like telling us everyone how we're more
Yeah,
similar and stop trying to be so like we're different, but come on, we're similar as well.
yeah. You gotta send me that. That's the type
Yeah.
of things I'm seeing, because it's like
Mhm.
it's so true. And when you, that's why I love more and more like Black people, especially like millennials, Gen Z, are going to the continent, whether it's because of like
Yeah.
Africa or whatever. Like people are connecting and uniting in a way that we didn't have before because of these like digital platforms.
Mhm.
Because of Afro beats, like the fact that people are listening to African music, like art,
Yeah.
that art has the opportunity to bridge those gaps, and like these African designers are coming over here, Black designers are going over there. We're seeing a lot
Yeah.
more art being shared across the diaspora, like actual like paintings and stuff like that outside of music. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just been nice to see that more and more people are putting out content like that. People are like making it aware, making it a thing, and pushing for this like Pan-African
Yeah.
like movement, this resurgence of that unity. So I'm happy to be part of that movement.
Yeah, I'm happy people on the continent are leaning into creating their own stuff because I remember several years ago joining like an Animation in Africa Facebook group, and it was like very much them creating like, stuff with white characters or stuff that is like American leaning. And I'm like, I joined this group to find out about y'all stuff, like, but y'all not producing none of it, so okay. But now, I feel like there's more comfort in like, oh, people are actually interested in our stories, and even if people are part of the diaspora, they're doing our stories wrong, so let's do our own stories. So, yeah, like there's a different perspective that a Black American has on an African story than an African or a person from an African country has. So I'm glad that they're empowered to do their own stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what do you hope? You mentioned it earlier, but if you can kind of reiterate, what do you hope creators are doing in this current landscape that you're doing? Like with this technology, YouTube, university, all this stuff. Like, what do you hope creators are doing in their free time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that has been important in my growth, and the to me the path forward, is like collaboration, like collaborating with, there's so many incredible Black creatives, or just, I mean, if whoever, there's just so many intelligent and creative people out there in all these different sectors. So as much as you can collaborate and create your own
Mm-hmm.
projects, build your own brands, understanding that you as a creative, like you're also an entrepreneur, like your creativity and your mind is what like pays for your way of living. So like understanding that that has value, and investing in that as in many ways that you can. That's something that for me, I know like built my portfolio a lot when I was back at home in New York when I graduated. Even though I was working a 9 to 5, like I was like, I want to like shadow on set. I want to like, again, reaching out to these brands and these different editorials to be like, hey, like, can I direct something for you? Knowing that, yes, you may not have the budget to pay me right now, but like I just want to build my portfolio. I have had
Yeah.
friends who are writers and actors. All right, so cool. Like, let me produce a short film of yours. Let me direct your music video. Let me, and that's something that I still do today. That's why I was like earlier, I'm in this spirit of collaboration. Like I haven't collaborated like that since I first moved to LA, which was like in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Partly due to the pandemic and things like that.
Yeah.
And then like, I work from home now, so I'm not really outside that much and like interacting with people
Yeah.
as much as I was before. But now I'm in that spirit of collaboration, just like, yo, like let's do a shoot, let's do this. Like, you know, my creative juices are flowing, and that gap has like shrunken from like where I was before to where I'm at now. So just keep collaborating, just keep working on projects with people. And honestly, those are probably the project that's going to get you where you want to go faster than the stuff you're doing for your job.
Yeah. Um, If someone was producing a documentary about you, what things would you want them to highlight about your life outside of your career?
You got really good questions. You're very unique. Um, Outside of my career, okay. It's like really weird when you're an artist because a lot of the things that like are part of your output are a part of who you are.
Yeah.
So it's like what's like not like I want New York and fashion to be like a very, very big part of what would be in my documentary. Um,
Mhm.
I would love showing the culture and art from the diaspora, so like going to Nigeria, and I went to Ghana, and that was such a life-changing experience for me. So like going to Ghana, showing that their like creative scene, and by the time this documentary would be made, I'd be in a lot of other African countries, so like just keep going to different African
Yeah.
countries. And then similarly going to the Caribbean, like the film I'm working on is about Caribbean womanhood and exploring what Caribbean
Mhm.
womanhood means. So I would want my documentaries to show these cultures, these people, and how these things in particular impacted to who I am and why I'm passionate about the diaspora, including New York as well.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, fashion, just like how fashion has inspired me, how like hip hop music inspired me, family and friends, and also just I think the most important thing that I would want them to show was like the development of my um understanding of self,
Mhm.
and um how I've continued to do better for myself holistically, like not even just work, but like taking care of my body and my mind and boundaries and trying to stay sane and
Yeah.
keep up my confidence, like all of those things, because all of those things is the reason why I'm even able to produce work or even talk about work. So it's like that that development of personhood and self and understanding, and like I became more into gratitude since I moved to LA, like always writing down like things that I'm grateful for and seeing how like just that shift in mindset has like impacted
Mhm.
a lot of the things that I do and the opportunities that come to me. Um, Practicing grace, like
Mhm.
all of that sort of like self development, I think would be the most important thing, other than like showing Pan Africanism, and then after that, fashion.
Yeah. I just bought a jar on Amazon at the end of last year because I wanted to start putting like things I'm grateful for because I feel like I
Gratitude
do
jar.
a yeah I do a lot and sometimes you don't remember how much you do throughout a year. So like just writing cool things that I do or something like that, and then like at the end of the year starting like a tradition where I just read everything like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Yeah, so
That's so cute. I
or
love
I
that.
forgot I was appreciative about that little thing. So
Yeah, I love that. I do this. I believe it's from Benjamin Hardy. He's this guy that has like, he does these like YouTube videos and books about just like habits and just
yeah.
gratitude mindset and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he has this journal practice at the beginning of the month. You like, the first question is like, where are you now? So sometimes I answer very literally, like I'm in my bed or whatever, or like talk about my mental state.
Yeah.
Um, what are things that you are, I think, grateful for, or that you accomplished in the last 90 days? So personally, professionally, whatever. What do you look forward to happening in the next 90 days? And it's like in the next year and in the next 3 years. Um, so yeah, I love doing that. I just did it today's the what second, so I did it yeah, the first. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that exercise, and exercises like that just to remind you of like what you've done and keep you
Mhm.
like dreaming about yourself. Like the moment you start dreaming about like what you want to do and like believe in and all those things, like then life just gets boring and stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it becomes less fun. Then you're just doing these duties of the rat race that, especially in
Mhm.
America, where you gotta always be running. So,
Yeah.
and like envisioning your life, I think is, super, super, super important for anyone outside of being a creative.
Can you talk a little bit about the film and how people can support you?
Yes, so I am doing a film about Caribbean womanhood. It is a folklore performance fashion film. Again, a conglomerate of like all the things I love. Um, and we're shooting it in Trinidad. It's a short film, as I said. And our goal is to shoot it in March. So we are starting a fundraiser sometime this month. So please be on the lookout for that. We're raising about 10 to 15K for the film. Again, shooting it in Trinidad. It's a Pan Caribbean film. And then afterwards, we're going to be doing a traveling exhibition where I'll be continuing this discourse of like what is Caribbean womanhood, what makes up a Caribbean woman, and highlighting different female artists, female Caribbean artists in various cities that are populated predominantly by Caribbean people. So like New York, Miami, Toronto, London, and hopefully a couple of Caribbean islands as well. To again like expand this discourse and conversation on Caribbean womanhood and what makes up a Caribbean woman through art. So yeah, please be on the lookout for the crowdfunding link. It'll be on my Instagram. I'll be sharing it. It'll be on my link tree, which is on my Instagram. And it'll be part of my newsletter that I just launched too. So also sign up for my newsletter.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So, where can people follow you on social media?
My Instagram is Raven Charisse, RavenCherisse. And my website is ravenirabor.com. That's RavenIrabor.com.
I would like to thank you for coming on my platform and allowing me to highlight you. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me. This was cool. Again, I love your questions. These are great
Thank you.
questions.
And to everyone out there, I want you to like so I know it's real, comment and tell me how you feel, subscribe to Citadel, and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Bye.